Hello and welcome to Reuzel Live. Today is Monday, October the 2nd. My name is Nicholas Giverson with Reuzel Education. Today we have a very special presentation marking her 6th time presenting for Reuzel Live, all the way from Burbank, California, Katy Dickson. Ladies and gentlemen, take it away, Katy.
Thanks, Nicholas. Hi, I'm Katy with Reuzel. Today I'm going to be doing a pompadour, and I'm just going to get right into it. We're going to be trying out some new products today too. We got the surf cream in officially. So like with every haircut, we want to start with a dry assessment. We want to start with a wet assessment. My client came in with a little bit of product in his hair. That's normal. That's what you should expect. And you will see, their hair styled and kind of what's going on. So he came in with a little bit of our extreme hold in his hair, and immediately his hair is still splitting in the middle. So we're going to be addressing that today too with how we cut the top of the hair. So after I do a dry assessment, even with product, kind of see the shape that we had before, kind of moving it around, checking for cowlicks, checking the scalp. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. So I'm going to get them all saturated down. I want even saturation to where it kind of feels like you've almost saturated them too much. I find especially with clipper over combing, you want to make sure that even the hair down the bottom of the hairline, kind of where my comb is going, is also saturated. Because when you're clipper over combing and you're creating that expanded shape, you want the water to work for you. So when I'm clipper over combing, I'll show you what I mean by that. But we're going to go in, and of course we're going to set our baseline first. Let get them all nice and saturated. So first thing I want to do is I want to pop my thumb right on the corner of the comb. So I'm going to come in, find the corner of the head. I have it against the flat of his ear. I can see where that comb's coming off. Find the apex. And I'm just going to follow that. So I have my finger planted on the corner of that comb, one swipe, and I'm done. One of the things I notice in my hands-on classes is the time that you end up taking trying to go through and fix every single hair, or you're going in and taking these smaller sections, you're then working less efficiently because you're obsessing over this straight line, but you can get a straight line in just one go. This was actually a trick that I learned at the old school that Duncan Bailey showed me, that just keeping your thumb on that corner locks it in and you work so much more efficiently. So when we get back into the crown area, that's where things get a little more difficult to just easily comb up and in to our top section, our top subsection. So we want to make sure that our cowlick is all nice and put away up into that top. And the nice thing is that pomade he's got in his hair makes it really easy for me to section. So now I've created my primary parting. I'm going to go in. Now we have a black comb right now. It's not really efficient for what I'm trying to do because it doesn't help me see. Now his hair is dark brown, blondish, but I still find a white comb is really just immediately you see the difference. You can actually see your section so much better. So just using those little changes in your tools to make things more efficient, more effective for you really will cut down any time. It's one of my questions that I get too is, how can you do this haircut quickly? Well, I mean, I'm not standing through and explaining when I'm doing a haircut on a guest, so it'll naturally go faster than the hour time that we have. So for the baseline, I held that up to 90. And now when we're cutting the baseline, we have light tension, medium tension. That's why it's sitting in my comb. I'm not pulling it out real hard with my fingers. So then I have my first cut right there. We're going to go right below it. And we're just going to define that baseline. We're going to be going a little shorter than Griffin usually goes, just because we want to get that blonde section off. So I'm just working from the section above going down to below. Now I've just set in our baseline. And I'll move on to the other side and replicate it over here and do the same. So I've done this haircut hundreds of times, if not thousands of times, but I still find checking for balance when I put in my baseline. Now I may think I have something that is visually balanced. I may have my, have my reps down so I can feel when I've held it the same way. Even when I'm feeling confident, I feel like I want to check that confidence. I want to make sure. 3 and 3. I would rather check and know I'm right than not check and figure out that I'm wrong after I've put in all the other things that go into the baseline, like the top of the head. So I'm just going through, defining that baseline, getting some debulking. And now I have my basic sketch of the sides with the baseline put in. So all this stuff, all of this zone 1, I'm just going to taper that off, and that's going to be in the refinement. So I'm just going to leave that there for now, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on the top. Now for me, that was sort of a new thing, which was leaving this part of the sides. I used to just complete everything, finish my fade. The fade was always the most important thing. And then I would move on to the top. But really, setting it up in a way that you're organizing things by refinement versus sketch, I find is more effective for how I cut hair now too, because hair acts differently once you see it all done. So now waiting to do that refinement at the end, I like the results that I'm getting better with that. But look, this is just the way that we do things. Just give it a try. If that's craziness to you, then you just keep doing what you do. But this is how we do it. This is how I do it. So I suggest you give it a try. But there's 1,000 ways to skin a calf, as they say. So I'm going in with my preliminary partings where I'm going to be sectioning off the crown, the corner, and the front. Now the crown is going to be defined. I'm going to find the apex, find where that whorl is, and then I make a vertical subsection going straight down, and I just comb that straight back, get it out of my way. And then I'm going to go in and define the front section, and by defining the crown and the front, my corner will be automatically defined. So I really am only doing 2 partings, 2 subsections. So I like to find the apex again, go just a tiny bit in front of it. And there we have our front, corner, crown section. Just going to go ahead and replicate it on this side. And then once I have my 2 front sections defined, I then place that into just 1 section. I don't necessarily need to keep this in a middle part because I'm going to be combing through this whole entire thing. Part of it's going to be over directed. So I'm just going to go ahead, plop these 2 together, get them out of the way, make them so they're not hanging into his eyes while I'm cutting the rest of it. Give it a little clip. Perfect. So now following the same section and same line that I created for my baseline parting, that's what I'm going to be following as I go up my crown and my corner section. So I'm just going to go in, find where that part of the head is. And now I want to build up weight in this parietal ridge, in the parietal ridge. So what I'm doing is I am over directing, I'm pulling down with the elevation to the section, to the baseline. So by doing that and holding the baseline sort of as a stationary guide, so the baseline is always held at 90, same way that I cut it. I'm going to create a buildup of weight right at that baseline that I created, which is what we want to see that. We want to have that strong weight buildup through the round of the head. That's how we're going to ensure that square shape. And almost got all the blonde off for you there. Almost. All right, so as I'm moving on to the corner section, this is where I'm going to be creating a slightly new guide as well. So we're still going to hold this to the baseline, right above the ear, and then we're going to kick our finger angle out. So I'm almost pointing more towards me. So now we have a new guide. So this front part of the corner section has now started its own new guide. And I'm doing that because I want to maintain length through the front. We want to get a little more of that exaggerated build right through here. So when I go up, we're going to have more of that length. That little kick, just a little bit more. And then once I finish my crown and my corner, I really like to go and just start to comb it back and just look. And I can already see the weight starting to build. I can see that square shape, everything's sitting nice and square in that parietal ridge. Happy to see it. I go ahead and define the same on this side. Now, like most pompadours, Griffin is battling the middle part, is, you know, that weight in the center that then weighs down and then splits into a part. Sorry, my audio might have cut out. But he is fighting the same thing that I find all pompadours are fighting, which is the fall in that center, the splitting. And that's usually caused by heaviness that goes through the apex section. So once I go through the top, I'm going to show you how here at Reuzel, we reduce the weight through that apex and we go against that final round of the head. Because if we think of a head shape, it does, I mean, that's what our apex is, right? It's the highest point of where the circle happens. Promised I wasn't going to say this word because I knew I'd butcher it, but conical. It's a conical shape. Now I find many of us, when we get to the top, we're very inclined to just balance everything out. We want to create a balanced square layering on top. And I'm not here to say that that's wrong or that's right, but that is not what we will be doing today because we want to be working against that round head shape to create a nice square pompadour top, but also reduce that weight that naturally will happen. That will comb back. Nice. right, now we're going to move on to the front. So the way that I describe how I like to take the front sections is horizontal to the hairline. So if we think of the hairline as almost a square, because it's not really, but we're sort of defining it as one, where our widow's peak is that point, and then all of these sections go sort of horizontal to that. So it's kind of diagonal back. That gets a little confusing because it's more of a horizontal diagonal, and then we start to get into all these words and descriptions. I find horizontal to the hairline is the easiest. So here we have our front section, and I'm going to find that other guide that I made. I'm not taking it to the baseline. We're floating slightly above that baseline in the corner. Find that finger angle. Really want to kind of drop. When I drop my finger angle, I'm maintaining length, but I'm still blending it into that guide that I created. So I take another section back, still horizontal to the hairline. And I'm just working, finding my finger angles. And now your guide that you have below the section you just pulled will tell you where your elevation and your finger angle was. So if you're searching for it, here it was. Do I see a nice straight line under there? Is my old guide? Yes, I do. So I know I have the correct finger angle, elevation. My guide below me helps me to see that. And then I have now the whole little pie section for the fun hair in front. Pulling everything over. Making sure there's no little long hairs through there. And boom. Right side is done. So if I was doing a boogie, I would not be going and doing the same thing on this side. That would be our shorter asymmetrical side, but we are doing a symmetrical haircut today. So we will be replicating the same on this side. I want to make sure that, because I was pointing down with my fingers on my dominant side, that I'm going to be using my knuckles as my point. So I just think of that angle. Now I'm pointing up. Whereas this side I was pointing down. Just make sure that I'm hitting that same angle. And then I'll show you guys how I like to do a quick check on that balance. Just by kind of giving everything a nice little comb forward once I'm done. So this is then how I check my angle. Comb that whole front section forward, and then I give it a look and make sure both angles look even. We have a little bit of uneven coloring, which that can throw a little bit. So just finding where angles are. Looks pretty even to me, but I'm seeing a little point right here. So that's just how I give it a little cross check to make sure that I didn't create some brand new angle on my non-dominant side when I'm trying to create a symmetrical angle. There we go. So I'm right-handed, so I will be standing on the left side of my guest when I do this. So now, moving on to the very top section, which is where we have that weight. which is what's going to cause that split. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a subsection right through the apex, basically. So that's about 2 combs width that I'm making. And now we know when you pull up a section this large, you're going to over direct. You're going to create a difference in length. That's what we want. We actually want there to be a slightly shorter, almost dipping in this section, because that's what's then working against the bone structure of the apex. So not only will it give more lift and give more of a true square as well, if we think about the principles of a flat top, how this part of the head is completely flat to it and then comes out, that's still that very short square shape. It's the same principle that we're going to be applying here today. So I go pull up everything. I can see what's been cut in the front. We got a nice little short length here. And I like to see what's been cut in the crown. And I know I don't want to cut shorter than what's already been cut in that crown. So starting in the front. Just going down the line. And I'm going to be slightly, ever so slightly, creating an angle. So it's not going to be this perfect flat, but it's actually going to be slightly tilted, like a 12-degree incline. You know, you could roll a ball down it, a ball wouldn't stay still. But I'm not going to be creating a very exaggerated one, because we're still using the principles of that square shape. I don't want to create this very exaggerated triangular shape, which would give a really strong front. Not to say that that's wrong, or that's, you know, not a style of pompadour that you can do. You can get real psycho with it, go all sorts of quiffs and stuff. This is just how I'm doing it today. So then I like to kind of pull this up, give it a little check. I'm going to go on this side, pull everything to that center section, just to make sure I'm not leaving anything behind. Beautiful. And now we can look at what one of those sections we just made actually looks like. We have a slight dipping going right into where the apex is. And that is what we want to see. So Griffin came in with a little bit of extreme hold matte pomade in his hair, which once you spray it down with water, it does dilute a lot. It is water soluble, even though it is wax based. But I am going to add just a little bit of some of our spray grooming tonic. Just to get a little bit of that memory and style that we want. Now because we already have some product on the ends, I don't want to just kind of like willy-nilly just go all around them. I want to be really precise, and that's why I picked the spray grooming tonic, because I want to go at the base where there isn't a lot of product anyway, because he just kind of smushed it through, and just make sure I can then get that lift, kind of rub it into the scalp. So that's another really great application for spray grooming tonic, when you really want to get that lift at the base, but you don't want to over apply like you might with the the bottled just grooming tonic, or they already have product in their hair and you don't want to overload the hair with more product. So now I'm going to grab for my nylon vent brush, because I'm just going to be trying to get like 80% of the moisture out of his hair. If you come from the long hair or women's styling world, you'll know that this is like the pre-dry, kind of like where you get all that dryness or all that wetness out of there. So then you can go in and refine it. It's the same principle here. So I'm going to be starting in the lower zone, zone 1 and 2, because those are wet as well. So I'm just blow drying everything back. Make sure that your blow dryer is not on scalding hot so you don't burn their scalp. Some blow dryers get really, really hot. My blow dryer is one of them. I have burnt people. Nothing serious, just a little discomfort. At least that's what they say. So I hope they're being truthful. So you want to do like a medium speed, medium heat. You don't want to go crazy and you don't want to be blowing them all around. We really want to be precise when we're kind of doing this rough dry, so we're not then working against the blowing around shape that we created. We really want to start shaping it before we go in and start trying to refine and, you know, give that nice body in front. Just want to make sure. So once I get zone 1, zone 2 done on my right side, I have my blow dryer in my right hand, my brush in my left hand, moving on to my non-dominant side because I want to get the lower zones done before I start trying to put dry hair on top of wet hair, because that will just rehydrate it. I switch hands. My blow dryer is now in my non-dominant hand because I'm on my non-dominant side. The reason I do this is for ergonomics, purely for ergonomics. If I was to try to blow dry with my right hand on my left side, I'm immediately having to do this. This will wear down your body unnecessarily. You keep it low, and then you're able to keep your elbows. So we're just doing the same. I like to keep my blow dryer and my brush right next to each other. There are times where I will do this, but for the most part, when I'm working through zone 1 and zone 2, I'm keeping these two tools connected. They're one and the same. My blow dryer is always chasing after my brush. Now, this reminds me of when I was learning how to cook. My great-grandmother told me, you cook it till it's done. Well, how do you know that it's done? You'll know that it's done because it'll be done. So the way that you check for doneness when you're blow drying is actually temperature. You can feel if the hair almost feels, I mean, you were just blowing hot air at it, so it should be warm. But if you feel a coolness, that means that there's still some dampness in there. So that's how you know it's not done. All right. I am happy with the doneness of my zone 1 and zone 2. Now I'll be moving on to the top. Still using my vent nylon brush because I want to be able to move through the hair easily and quickly. And I'm not going to be doing any refining in the blow dry with my vent brush. Not that you can't, you totally can, but I do prefer to use my Denman, and I'll get that out once I get to that section. So now that I'm in the back crown, I'm just kind of working it back and forth. Some people may know this as a flat wrap or a round wrap, some sort of wrap. I've been told that it's called that, but I just like to smooth the hair using the round of the head shape to give it a slight turn. The head is sort of a gigantic roller, and that's what I'm smoothing it up against. So I'm not just going straight back, I'm going across. And I'm making sure the crown is completely dry. I have the sections moved out of my way.
Hey, Katie, just jumping on. Hey, Katie.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, just want to let you know we got viewers from all over the world. We've got Germany, US, Canada, Guatemala, Brazil, Thailand, Mexico, and Norway in the house today.
Nice.
Nothing but positive things so far, so keep up the great work.
Sweet, thank you. And thanks for tuning in, guys, whatever time it may be where you are. So now, once I get the crown done, I'm going to split the sections not so perfectly in the middle because I don't want to blow dry in a middle part. So I'm going to kind of brush this all back, kind of bring a side part and start working these sections back. And I'm just kind of working it the opposite direction of where I have it brushed down, keeping this wet section away from my dry section, just trying to stay organized. Especially when you're dealing with pompadours and shapes that have high volume, you don't want to rush through your blow dry because that will leave moisture through the center of it and you'll get that floppy center, and that is not what you want with a pompadour. I'm just kind of brushing. Here's our last section. Kind of brushing back. I don't want to get this section entirely dry. I just want to make it a little easier for me to style when I go in with my Denman brush to give it more lift. Flip to the other side. Still the same. I'm flipping hands. So create this section and start working everything back. Same way I did on the other side. Go a little bit further than the center so I don't create a center part, but so that the center does not get left out when we're blow drying. So got a little bit of moisture in there. That's perfect. Now I'm putting down my vent brush and I'm picking up my Denman. So I have two Denman brushes that I like to use. I have my 9 row, and then I believe this is a 12 row, but it is clearly larger and more beveled. So the reason I like using them, they are hemispheres, they're half circles. So I get that really nice beveling and that lift, and I can control how much volume I want. So I'm going to be picking my larger Denman brush today because I want a little bit more of that curve. I want more volume. Jump back onto my dominant side, split it again. Now we're going to be blow drying them up. So the nice thing about these bristles, they really grab onto the hair. So I'm brushing towards the face because I'm going to be blow drying away from the face. So I do this quick little motion, brush forward, I start to flip, 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 flip. And now I'm getting that beveling at the root, and the direction of the hair is going back. Already seeing that lift forming. And for this front section, I almost like to pull it out just to get even more lift up in that front section. Bring it around to this side. I have all this already sectioned off for me. Same thing. Just like before, flipping hands, keeping my elbows low, keeping my hands low. You don't make silly faces when you're blow drying. Are you even styling the hair? Bringing that lift in. Now we start in with the refinement. So I like to go around, especially when you have a thicker haired client, find you have visual weight lines and then you actually have like sensory weight lines or like, weighted areas. So I like to run my fingers through the hair, kind of how you would start into the bloody knuckles technique, and just start to feel where I'm feeling a lot of that extra bulkiness. So I know kind of where I want to go in and really get like that deeper blending and softening and texturizing. Now, Griffin has good density all over, not anything that's inconsistent where we have like extra weight in the crown or real thin in front. He's very consistent all over, but he really likes to see a lot of that texture. So we're going to be putting a lot of that texture in today. So now that I've kind of assessed the cut that I have, I'm going to go in. Now I'm looking for my visual weight lines. So I assessed where my sensory weight line is, or my weight areas. And now I'm looking for my weight lines. Definitely getting a little bit of that visual weight line. You usually will see it right here in the crown. We don't want to see the weight line, but we want the weight. That's where our blending shears are going to come in. So I know I need to do a little bit of softening through my baseline, and especially when you have someone who has blonde tips like this, or any sort of like difference in hair color, the blending shears really make a big difference in softening the obvious lines that happen from the line of demarcation and the other color. So I'm just going in kind of same way. I don't want to go too deep into the actual like hair length. I really am just softening the surface. I go too deep into the hair lengths, I'm then taking out too much weight, possibly causing holes. And then creating what I like to call the second coat, where you've thinned the hair out so much that now there's this thick internal coat, kind of like a German Shepherd or a Husky has, that is bulky and thick, and then everything else around it is way soft and it does not grow out well. So I'm keeping things at the very tips of the hair. And if I want to do more debulking, I'm only going to go about halfway into the hair. I'm not going to pick up hair, take my blending shears, go straight at the roots. That's, I feel like, when guests will tell you, oh, don't use blending shears. I've had a bad experience with blending shears. Every client that has told me that, once I get to talking to them a little bit more, it's because their hair was very exaggeratedly thinned out by these thinning shears, by blending shears. Hence why they call them the scary toothed scissors. Don't use those on me. You want to use your tools the best way possible. So now we're seeing that weight is still there, still nice and built up, but we don't have that hard line from the color or from the haircut shape that we created. So now I'm going to go in, give everything a lift again. And now I'm going bloody knuckles. I want to go in, really kind of shimmy my fingers into it. By doing that, I'm making it the expanded shape rather than going in, taking each section. Okay, here's that section I took, boop, boop, boop. I'm really able to just lift everything up and see the expanded shape too. That's what I really like about the bloody knuckles. Get a little over direction too. Now, hence the name, you want to be careful when you're doing the bloody knuckles. But me, I don't have time to sharpen my shears, so I can cut my knuckles up all I want and there's no blood. I do not recommend that. Sharpen your shears. It makes your life easier. Combing everything through. So the products I'm thinking about using today, I don't know if anybody else has suggestions, but I really want to use the new Surf Cream on Griffin because he gets so much texture and likes that real broken up. Even though, yes, it's a pompadour, it's a very highly textured pompadour. It is not one that is perfectly shaped, and that's how he likes it. But he also has difficult hair, so he needs to use a very strong pomade, so he uses extreme hold. So I like that we can cocktail the Surf Cream with other products to get more of a textured, softened look, while still then using the extreme hold or concrete that will give the hold and the daily longevity that the clients are looking for. So I'm going to get started just refining my zone 2. Griffin likes a taper. I prefer a tapered neckline. I think most gentlemen also prefer tapered necklines, especially if they don't know what they prefer, because it's natural. It grows out the best. It elongates the neck, and it keeps with that same narrow, square result that we're looking for. So if they'll take it, that's what I suggest. But a blocked neckline where you just square it off, you're creating that horizontal line, you're not creating narrow shapes, and then it immediately grows out. So that's usually how I sell the neckline, because some people need to be sold on it. They hear taper and they get.
Hey, Katie, popping back on here. I asked everybody what Reuzel products they want to see you style with, and it seems like the overall consensus is whatever you want to use. So Surf Cream it is.
Sweet. Surf cream and extreme hold it is. And I did get him started with some of the spray grooming tonic as opposed to grooming tonic or our surf tonic. So if anybody's wondering what I started the blow dry with. So especially when I'm going through sort of the transition between zone 1 and zone 2, I like to keep my comb at a diagonal angle. Whereas to here on the side of the head, I'm keeping everything really horizontal and straight because I want to continue to create that tapered, softening shape as we're going down into the nape. So that's how I'm using that diagonal. Just hugging the head through zone 1. So I'm just going in and kind of freehand tapering, a little clipper over comb action right at the hairline. Just kind of soften everything up. Especially where we have this cowlick right here. Hit them with the trimmers really fast, and then we're going to get to styling. See why this makes sense to leave this to the end of the haircut? None of this is interesting. This is what we do with every haircut, even if we're not doing like a classic style. We're doing the little tiny detail work, going around the ear, tapering up the neckline. That's not what the focus should be. This is all after stuff. The fade, zone 1, zone 2. When I started barbering, that I felt was the most important thing in the world was the fade. Get the fade down, have the fade good. Spend 20 minutes on the fade. You know, make sure every single shadow that you think you're perceiving is done. Once you get that down, there's so much more. That's so much more important. Because a fade goes away in a week. A 1 guard is a 2 in a week. 2s don't show any skin. Your fade's gone. But the shape that you build through the head shape, that's what lasts. That's what lasts the 5-6 weeks. I have clients that tell me that they're so happy with my haircuts because of how long they last, which to me is a huge compliment. And I like to finish off with a straight razor neck shave, but of course my hot lather machine has died. I'll take a moment of silence for my lather machine. And of course, the mechanic that can fix them is on vacation for 7 weeks. I don't know. He must be European. So I'm going to get started with the styling. We're going to go with the Surf Cream. I'm going to get that started off first. I'm almost using this as like a texturizing undercoat. So that's kind of the way I think about our different matte products is when we think of like the matte powder, that's like a texturizing, mattifying top coat. This is a texturizing, mattifying base coat to any of the products. So the texture of this is so neat. You can literally feel the salt in it and that smooth grain of it while staying really creamy and easy to work with. So I'm getting started with just a knuckle. Feel the grit on my hands. Now I'm going to go in, get it all in there. Really want to make sure I'm working it towards the base. It's kind of our, and when we think of guests as well too, it's kind of our first inclination to, you know, just start smoothing it back. Nope, make it crazy, make it go up, make them question your ability a little bit. Now, just knowing his hair, because I have cut Griffin's hair before, it's a lovely pompadour, I'm going to use 2 knuckles of the extreme hold. I usually like to say, especially for our stronger products, go with just 1 knuckle first so you don't over apply. But in his case, I know what his hair can take. Really getting it into that base. Just making them all sorts of crazy. Then I'm going to go in with my metal pick, start to move everything back. I like to do that before my finer tooth comb. Because the pick detangles, so we've kind of tangled the hair a little bit. We've created some physical back combing. And this is just an easy way to get through the hair. Especially when you're using stronger hold products, you're going to feel like you're pulling out a lot of hair. The hair is weak, we don't need it, pull it out. But it is very helpful to then move through the hair with the metal pick. So we have a bit of that texture. And this is our pompadour in its more smooth style, which is how I like it. And then immediately Griffin will stand up and do this to it. So I'm going to style him out the way he likes because I love a textured pompadour. When you take something that's classic, modernize it just a little bit, make it your own. And I think that's what Reuzel's all about.
You can go full Elvis if you want it. Okay.
I feel like a lot of us have been quiet on the Facebook Lives, but if there's any questions, any comments, any concerns, I just like messing with this at this point.
Not a whole lot of questions going on. Everyone's just enjoying and watching.
All right. And we're going to take some pictures once we finish up here. And if you guys want to go check out my Instagram at Katy Dickson to see the finished photo results. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie. Looks great. Thanks, Griffin, for being a wonderful model yet again for Reuzel Education. Katie, any final words?
Just to make sure to check out our classes coming up at the Denver Academy. We have November classes and December classes, and I'm sure you'll tell them all about that right now. But thank you guys for tuning in to my 6th live.
That's great. Thanks, Katie. Great job. Great job. As Katie mentioned, we've got education. We've got in-person events happening October, November, December. In October, we've got 3 different events. First up, we got October 9th in New Orleans at the World War II Museum. Armstrong McCall presents the Big Easy Barber and Beauty Expo. We've got Patrick Lewis from Chicago and myself, Nicholas Giberson from Pensacola, Florida, presenting alongside a bunch of other amazing brands. Babelist, for one, is going to be there as well with us. It's going to be October 9th at the World War II Museum from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you're on the Gulf Coast or around the New Orleans, Louisiana area, reach out to your local Armstrong McCall rep. October 15th and 16th, we've got a classic haircut class at the Denver Academy in Denver, Colorado. More information can be found online at reuzel.com. Go on over to the Pro tab, drop down to Denver Academy class dates, and you'll see October 15th and 16th. Space is still available. And if you're not able to make any of the other 2 events, we've got October 15th and 16th. We'll be at the Salt Lake City Beauty and Barber Expo in Salt Lake City, Utah. We've got educators on main stage presenting, and we've got something very special. I'll be judging the traditional barbering category, and the first place winner of traditional barbering wins a free ticket to the Denver Academy, any class of their choice. So it could be worth checking out. Bring your best traditional haircuts to the event. And lastly, thanks for hanging out with us today at Reuzel Live. Tune in on October 30th for our next presentation from brand new Scumbassador Joel Tenser from Arizona. He will be joining us for his very first presentation. Again, as always, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.